it's so funny when we get a guest that I just never one. I'm just a huge fan of, and so
thanks, man.
dude. I mean, I grew up with you on so many levels. We'll get into all of this, and we want to promote because I see that you're on tour promoting the Stand By Me 40 years later. I mean, which is so. It's so perfect that you're doing this, man.
Right.
Like for everybody, it's such a. I mean, you probably hear it from everybody at those things and throughout your life of just how important that movie was for all of us. But then, and we'll get into all that. I want you to promote it. But then you're here for probably one of the most DL cut albums that is so. It is if you know music, you know it.
Yeah.
But this is not. This isn't. This isn't. I'm trying to think. This isn't like The Cure. This isn't like the Ramones. This is like Big Star. This is like a little nugget of music that inspired so much other shit.
Yeah, sure.
So I knew you were cool, but I didn't realize you were that cool. That's what I'm saying. Ultimately,
I really thank you. I really appreciate that. My relationship to this record is special, and kind of surprising to me. Do you want to know you want to hear how I came to Marquee Moon?
I mean, please. I mean, we'll do. Listen, we go in any direction you want. I have notes. Cool. I have facts. This is one of those things where it's like I don't even know how. Like, I don't know if it was Spotify or I was working on this TV show or whatever I was doing, where somehow Marquee Moon made its way into my life. And I heard that song, I was like, oh, this is great. But it was like it almost like stopped there. And I mean, so when I start finding out how different people have found this band after we've done all this research, it just blows my mind. So please take me on your television Marquee Moon journey.
Okay. Before we get to television, I want to tell you where I was when I discovered this record. So when I was 14, I had a friend at school, and she was the cool older goth girl who made me as cool as I was ever going to get. Which was not very, but it was more than I was. She introduced me to the Smiths, The Cure, the Violent Femmes, Depeche Mode, and Joy Division. And until that moment in my life, I just kind of listened to my parents' music, which was a lot of really cool classic rock, but nothing that was contemporary in the 80s, like at all. And I remember sitting on the floor in her apartment listening to Meat is Murder and being blown away. I was like, I've never heard anything like this. This has changed everything for me. And I never really looked back from that. I went from like post-punk to goth to punk, where I stayed for a really, really, really long time. And in all of that, I did not know television even existed until probably the first season of Stranger Things, however long ago that was. Like, what was that, like 6, 7, 8 years ago, something like that? Does that?
I don't know. I feel like Stranger Things is kind of doing like a Sopranos thing.
It's been around for like
dragging ass, dude. Yeah, dude. I mean, it's like.
At this point, Stranger Things may as well have been produced in the 80s for how long we have to wait for new seasons.
I mean, you ain't lying, dude. It's the Curb Your Enthusiasm, a sci-fi drama. I mean, it's like a 20-year, but only 11 seasons. Come on, dude. Come on, beef it up, dude. You give us that much time.
One of the characters in that first season, like, was listening to one of the songs off of this album.
Interesting.
Like just in a scene, right? And I realized that I'd heard Prove It. I couldn't tell you where. But I had never heard anything else from this album, because I'm 53, so I'm like just a little bit too young for the bands that I'm crazy about. Like, I'm just a little bit too young to have gotten to see them live and to have like been there, in the midst of all of it. I listened to K-Rock, and I listened to like some college stations in LA, and like television just never crossed my event horizon.
Mm-hmm.
I heard one of these songs on Stranger Things, and I was like, wow, this band sounds terrific. So I went straight to the internet. I found the album. I listened to the album all the way through. And there have been a few albums in my life that I've just been completely on board with from like the first note of the record. And this was one of them. It still blows my mind that it's 45 minutes long or 51 minutes long. Like it's such a short record, you know? And it's just flawless from start to finish. And I realized as I was listening to it for the first time, however many years ago, wow, every band I love, the bands that I am obsessed with, they're all influenced by this record. Every single one of them is influenced by this record. And then I was doing some research for this before I came to talk to you.
Please.
And discovered that like guys from New Order and Joy Division are like, yes, this is my favorite. Marquee Moon is my favorite record of all time. And I'm reading contemporary reviews of the album, which are so fun because I'm thinking like, well, what were those journalists influenced by at the time? I'm like, what's really popular? It's 1977. It's the peak of fucking disco, man. Like, and punk hasn't even really gotten started yet, right?
It's about to, though. It's coming, though. It's in the mail.
know,
the
but
FedEx
it's like-
package is about to be delivered. You're getting the updates in your text messages that it's
Right,
around the
but it's like-
corner. Yeah.
This feels like a record that is just leading on the edge of like the cliff before it just soars away in like a crazy flight suit, you know, on just like every updraft between here and the ground. It just feels like it's just ready to go. Like, is the audience ready for this? Is America and the world ready for this record? And what I'm hearing in these reviews, or what I'm reading in these reviews, are descriptions that I've used forever that I didn't know were ways they described music back then. I'm like, yeah, these guitars are kind of crunchy. And like this music sounds sharp. This music feels angular. It's not smooth and rounded out like a lot of the post-punk and a lot of the goth that I enjoy listening to. I just put this thing on repeat, man, and just couldn't stop listening to it. And reading all of these stories from all of the artists who would go and see them at CBGB and listening to how they were like right there with Patti Smith and the Ramones at the start of all of it, right?
Yeah.
So my last like fun fact about this record that was my poor wife is so tired of hearing this from me.
Please listen to something else. My God. Chumbawamba, anything.
Oh my God, do I have to hear about that producer? I know he produced all the Led Zeppelin records. You won't stop talking about it.
Oh my God.
You know? I'm one of those dudes who I'll put on like a Black Sabbath record, right? And I will make them listen to it over and over again. Can you hear it? Can you hear the bass drum echoing off the walls in there? Like
I love that.
They put it at the bottom of a well. Like, can you hear it? Can you hear it? You know. Anyway, my friend John Bowie wrote a play about the Ramones called Four Chords and a Gun, and it's about the recording of their album with Phil Spector. And there's this apocryphal story that Phil Spector pulls a gun on the Ramones in the studio, like we all know it, right? One of the possibly apocryphal stories about the recording of that album is that he was famously implacable and he just wouldn't get off Marky Ramone's back. And the story is that the drums on the record are Phil Spector. It's not Marky Ramone, which is like, are you kidding me? I'm listening to Phil Spector all this time. That's the performance that I'm hearing when I listen to that record. I'm not hearing the actual guy. That is context for this. I learned only in the last couple of weeks the studio, how they had gone through finding a producer for this record and choosing how they were going to record it. And I'm reading about Tom Verlaine and Richard Hell like going around to different clubs and playing all the tracks that are on this record, and they build this following, and people are crazy about them, and they're getting more and more comfortable in their music, right? And they come in there. Brian Eno wants to produce them, and Tom Verlaine is like, it's too smooth. It's too soft. It's too polished. And I'm like, right, more angular guitars. That's what I love about this fucking record, man. And they finally agree to go in. They record it with Elektra, and they finally go into the studio. And Tom Verlaine tells the band, all right, we're going to do Marquee Moon. Let's do a rehearsal on Marquee Moon, which at the time has been like their song, right? This morning, I found every live recording that is legally available online. And
is there a lot?
I listen, there's 3 live albums.
Oh,
and
wow.
I listened to 3 different versions of Marquee Moon. and they're just so, oh God, they're just so good. And the band is so tight, right? Like I just saw Circle Jerks a couple of weeks ago, and there was not a nanosecond of space in anything. They were so tight. And I went with John, and John was like, yeah, man, this is what you sound like when you've been playing together for 47 years. Like you're that tight, right? So the band is so tight and they're so flawless. Tom Verlaine says, let's just rehearse this. And then he tells the engineer, just hit record. They play the song like they always do. They get to the end of the song. They play it through in one take. They get to the end of the song. And the band's like, cool, I guess we're ready to go. Like, let's put it down. And Verlaine goes, nope, that's it. We were recording. We're not doing it again. They did one take of Marquee Moon for the album Marquee Moon. Mm-hmm. It is the only take that was recorded. And that's the take that's on the album. What I love about this and why I mentioned Leave Home, when anyone listens to that song, we are hearing 10 minutes perfectly preserved from the moment this song was recorded. There is no alternate take. They didn't do it other times. They went in and did this one time. To me, that is the equivalent of getting to see a legendary live performance where something happens that never happens again, and you just hope that somebody recorded it so you can experience it again. I love that raw, perfectly rehearsed, incredibly intensely familiar sensation is in that music, and that these guys, when they're recording it, are not thinking, okay, well, we can go and do this again, or I'm going to settle into it. They are so in the flow of that music. Mm-hmm. It is such a part of them and has been for so long that it just comes out, and it's good enough to get to an album that they told Brian Eno no on, that they've been waiting to record for like 3 years. I think about the level of belief they had to have in themselves, the faith they had in themselves, the support they had from the label, and the faith they had in each other. All of that, like, it just lights me up, man. I just think it is the coolest thing.
I mean, to do something like that in one take, you know, it is, and to make something, not just that song, which is the one that I heard, but like this record, it sounds like it should have come out 5 or 6 years later. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. That's how ahead of its time.
Yeah.
You know, I could imagine, because when I thought, I was talking to the guy that I write this with, this guy Morty, and I was like, yeah, it's like, I didn't even know the year that it came out. And I was like, oh, it probably came out. This is already like post-punk. He's like, punk hasn't even come out really yet. So this is so far ahead of the game for them to do something, you know, this monumental in music. But then, you know, it's another thing to make this record. It feels like it's very like Velvet Underground-y, where it's like they are.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
Yeah, they're so ahead, and maybe they didn't sell for shit, but everybody that bought this record, you know, went on to start a band.
And it's that great saying about the Velvet Underground record, right? Not everybody bought it, but everybody who did started a band.
And I think that's the same shit with Big Star. And I would always, because by the way, like, we did all the Big Star records.
Yeah.
I mean, in the first 100, maybe in the first 100 episodes. And I remember digging into them and being like, okay, like first, I think we did them out of order. I think we went like 3 and then 1 and then 2. In their order of when they were written, and like 3, I was like, this is good. And then when we got to like 1 and 2, I was like, oh, I get it now. They, you know, Television, this is it. This is the only record of them that they put out that actually, I'm not trying to say that people give a shit about. I don't want to say that, because they have Adventure and there's songs off that, and I continued to listen to it after I gave a couple listens to this. But I mean, this is it. This is the one that I really think, I mean, it is the sound of what I can only imagine New York was probably like at that time.
God, you know, you can see it, right? You can see it's grimy and sooty and subway grates and steam and just and people slumped over in doorways on the Lower East Side. Like, it just, right? It feels like it's Alphabet City, kind of like in the rain. It really gives me that feeling. Like, it doesn't feel like Midtown. It doesn't feel like the Deuce. It feels like the Lower East Side.
Yes.
And I don't know, like, when when I, even though this album is the same age as my sister, like when I discovered it, I was like, I have found something secret and special. I've just found something that is secret and special for me. And like, oh my God, it is so evocative. And the album has, like, I feel like it covers a really wide range of ideas while staying in that dirty, grimy, midnight cowboy sort of version of New York. But there's love songs, and there's Prove It is great, and Venus is such a fucking great song, and then like, and I'm, there are moments in songs on this album that I hear lifted straight out by other artists. And there's a moment I think in Venus, that sounds like there's a guitar phrase that I know I've heard in The Pretenders.
I know. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Like note for note, I think it's from Stop Your Shouting. I think that's what that song's called.
Mm-hmm.
But just, like, as an artist, all I ever want to do is make something that matters to people. I want to take something that I am feeling and share it with another person, so it connects to something that they are feeling, and they get something out of it, whether it's inspiration or it's merely diversion or it's something deeply meaningful. Like when I listened to Pink Floyd's The Wall for the first time, I am that character. I was a kid. I first heard it when I was like 12 or 13, and I was a kid who was like, I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to be on the stage. I didn't want to have all of that attention. I just wanted my mom to love me. I had no relationship with my dad, because my dad just decided that he hated me from as long as I can remember. And like everything that guy goes through in that concept album was very relevant to me and remained relevant to me for my entire life. To find a piece of art, particularly music, that really speaks to something deep and primal inside of me as a listener is such a powerful experience. I hope that I can give that to anybody who pays attention to my work. But I found in this entire album all these different places where it connects to a different piece of me, just a different part of me that needed whatever that was. And overall, there's a warm bath quality to this album for me. I can just settle into this record and ride it until it's over. And there's not a lot of records I can do that with.
It's not a hard listen at all, man. This is a very, very, because I'm telling you, I heard Marquee Moon. Fuck, I really wish I could pinpoint it. I don't know if it was like 06 when I was working for Channel 1 doing music direction for them, or if it was already me being out here. I mean, it wouldn't have been out in New York. It would have been in LA, because it's just been saved in my Spotify like songs for years. And by the way, Will, I thought this was fucking, because I didn't see the album cover when it first came on. I was like, oh, I'm saving this. They look like they could have been the Strokes. Like I was like, this could have been like an Interpol type thing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and you can hear their influences in those bands too, which 100%. Is amazing.
100%. And that's why I keep saying, go ahead.
I bet you there's at least one contemporary act who's super influenced by this record and they don't even know it, because they derived their influences from someone who was influenced by it. And I imagine that there's someone who's 2021 who in 4 or 5 years is going to go, holy shit.
I'll give you a band right now, Will. Dude, I'll give you a band right now, Will. And it's only because I listened to this and then because I was working out yesterday and I finished the album. And then I put on, everybody's talking about that band. Is it Geese? Is that it, or Goose? There's two of them. There's Goose and there's Geese. I don't know them. One of them's like a hippie jam band. The other one is like the hip Brooklyn. And dude, I hear Big Star. I hear Television.
Yeah.
And it's not like beating it over the head like Interpol with either Joy Division or or all these other things, or the Strokes with this band. It's there. And it's the same conversation I had with this younger kid where he just could not accept that the music that he loves is influenced by the past. And I know that sounds ridiculous, even as that comes out of my mouth. And we've argued and he's already apologized for this. But in this one discussion about why Wu-Tang sucks. And he's like, I hate Wu-Tang, but I love this new stuff. And I'm like, there is no new stuff without Wu-Tang. Like,
Yeah,
you
right.
have to have Tupac with, you don't get to that. And it's like, yes, there are artists now that have taken these little elements and made whatever you want to call post-punk or or punk or new wave or garage rock and have really picked up the baton and ran with it.
Yeah.
And their albums are great for now, but it's like there is something about going back and getting, all right, I'd much rather, would you rather have a brand new car or the same car from 25 years ago? I'm like, if it's in perfect condition and every song from start to finish, the whole album just flows. I mean, I'll take this any day. And I'm really fucking happy that this came out. And everything that you said about like, it is being able to capture something in one take. It's like just the idea that this band got lightning in a bottle, literally in the studio. That that is something rarely that happens. You know what I mean? With another producer, we might not have had the same album. We might not be talking about it.
Can you imagine if Martin Hannett had been able to come within 1,000 miles of this record?
Oh my God.
It would just be so smoothed out and terrible. It would just sound like somebody's hitting like just striking a gong underwater. Like there would just be nothing to it, right?
I mean, this is one of those things where it's like less is so much more.
Yeah.
And by doing that, because I'm telling you, if the more you smooth this shit out, the less you get Sonic Youths talking about how much this album is important. You know what I mean?
There is so much television in Sonic Youth.
Oh my God, yes.
Oh my God, I had no idea. I was talking about, every now and then I get on my bullshit every now and then, right? I get on my Radiohead bullshit. It's all I want to hear. I get on my Sonic Youth bullshit. It's all I want to hear. It happens from time to time.
Right here, dude.
So I was listening to Sonic Youth and I was like, God, this Sonic Youth is so terrific. And somebody said to me, I feel the same way. I really like Sonic Youth. And then there's always a point in the record where it gets noisy and experimental. And I'm like, I don't know if I like Sonic Youth that much. And I actually really love, I don't listen to a lot of that stuff because it's just noisy and whatever. I super duper respect it.
Sure.
But I feel it is sort of like, yeah, let's do this, man. Because who knows who's going to hear that and spin it off into the next Sonic Youth. To tie this loosely, I'm really proud of myself tying these together. I want to tie this to Stand By Me. This discussion. So you said at the top, we're doing this Stand By Me tour. We're doing these shows. So Jerry O'Connell, Corey Feldman, and I are going to some cities around North America with a screening of our movie Stand By Me because it's 40 years old. And we screen the movie with an audience, and then we do a Q&A afterward, and then we do a little VIP photo reception after that, and we go to the next city and we do it all again. So this last weekend, I watched Stand By Me 3 nights in a row, and I saw things in Stand By Me that, even though I've seen it 100 times, like, I wouldn't have noticed these things had I not watched them in quick succession with other audiences, with my co-stars next to me to talk about it. In Stand By Me, there is a scene that Rob Reiner is incredibly proud of. And it is after we go through the junkyard, we run away from the dog, and we have the fight with the junkyard guy at the fence. And Teddy has like a real emotional meltdown about his dad. The next scene is us walking down a pathway, the 4 of us. And the camera's leading us, pulling away. And this scene is about 2.5 pages. And in this scene, there's a moment of comedic timing that you cannot teach, that Jerry O'Connell absolutely nails at 11 years old. That's brilliant. And then there are moments of us being really like serious and connected to each other. And it all comes through. And it's a 2.5 page scene that's shot in one take. And Rob talks about how proud he was of that because it's hard to do things in one take with kids because kids fuck up. It's just part of being a kid. So to get kids to do a solid performance like you would see on stage in one shot like that was a big deal to him. And it was a big deal to us. I did not realize until I saw it 3 nights in a row how perfect it is in terms of timing. If you were like listening to a click track, it is perfect in the way that it
Mm-hmm.
all works out. If you want, like, if you open yourself to the emotion of that scene, it's believable. You feel like you're watching these kids who have just been screamed at and threatened by an adult, and they're trying to figure out what they're gonna do. That was our that's our one take moment. That's a moment where, the scene is the movie's full of wonderful performances and meaningful scenes. They're all edited together from multiple takes like you do in movies, but that, man, that's just us being us in this one moment. And it is our version of, here, let's take, these guys take this 10 minutes from 1977 and give it to us. We take those 2.5 pages filmed in 1985 and put it out for everybody to see. I know we did more than one take, so I don't know which one is actually in the movie. But it's cool to have been part of something that was done in a similar kind of way, just without any safety net.
I think, and I want to piggyback of what you're saying. I think the reason that movie works so well is that is perfect casting, and I mean,
yeah,
perfect. Like, you get, dude. I mean, it is the movies that we love. It isn't so much this. I mean, scripts can be. I mean, that was a great script. You can't deny that, and the characters in it are amazing. But whoever, whether it was Rob working with the casting director, like, they made sure that every single person, including not just the four of you, but all of the, the Kiefer and his henchmen, they all, dude, your dad, fucking John Cusack, those little things to that all just made the emotion, of that story, because it's such a simple story with so many different layers of the onion that need to be peeled that we eventually do. Just like this record, it is the fact that you can get that kind of comedy and you can get that kind of sadness evoked from that movie, and the way that we can get this record and such a one take thing is because you've got people that have been playing, that know their roles. They've been playing together forever, whether, with Tom and Richard, and then meeting up with Billy and knowing the scene in New York and being at the right place at the right time and doing demos with Brian Eno. And so they're working with greats. And it's like, you guys have all, River's already been working, Corey's already been working. Rob has come from a fucking comedic, acting into directing. It's all of these, and it's written by it's a novella by Stephen King. All of those things, it all just is the ingredients to the stew that just makes it perfect. And it's like I said, dude, you lightning in a bottle. It's like you get certain things once, like you can't. I'm sorry, dude. The new Running Man, I don't give a shit what you say. It's not as good as Arnold Schwarzenegger's. That's the movie.
Like, it's a better adaptation of the source material, but it's not as fun as the old movie, is it?
Exactly, dude. If you tried to make Stand By Me again, it will suck. If you try to make Lost Boys again, it will suck. Dude, people, they think that we want you want the screenplay for Roadhouse. You think we gave a shit about actual what the words? We want Swayze doing Tai Chi by a bed and then ripping a guy's heart out after he fucks Kelly Lynch. I mean, we don't want guys robbing banks and then skydiving. That's not the story. But I want Keanu and I want Patrick Swayze. Like, you can't, dude. I'll give it. I'm wearing RoboCop 2, right? I didn't know what shirt to wear for you today, so I wore out of all of them. I wore my RoboCop 2 shirt. I also have a Lost Boys hoodie.
Excellent.
Dude, but that's the thing, is that, like, when you get it right, when you've got the right ingredients to something, and I feel like the band had been playing together, from what I'm understanding, for years, so to finally in 77, when they started making this record, they understood each other at a level that was like, or 76 when they recorded it. Yeah, dude, it's just, when it works, it works. And I feel, this worked. I wish more people knew about it. I think they do. It's just, and when you get those people that, it's just, whether it's, you guys doing the promo for it, or other actors and directors that are now coming up saying, well, what movies influenced us? And we're like, oh, well, I saw Goonies at this age, or I saw Back to the Future, or I saw Stand By Me. It's like, those are the things that we take with, and all we're doing is just kind of perpetuating the art in a sense.
It's really cool to hear filmmakers who I admire today who have made things that I like cite Stand By Me as a reference, as an influence. You know, there's shots in the first season of Stranger Things that are lifted straight from Stand By Me, and the Duffer Brothers were like, "Yeah, we did that on purpose."
Sure.
Do you want to know about the casting of Stand By Me?
Yeah, please. Oh, because
Please.
I was gonna, because usually, dude, we could take this whatever way you want to take it. I have facts and I have questions throughout the songs, you know, and the other thing is too, like, I'm such a huge fan of Corey, like, not like his music. I'm like one of his number one fans. I've seen him live. I fucking touched him. I touched him at the Loserville show. Like, I love him. I think he rules. I think Jerry's awesome. I think River is one of the is up there with one of the, you know, I would have loved to have seen what he was gonna do.
Same.
You know, Kiefer is the fucking man, obviously. And dude, you just were the perfect, and that, and not to cut you off about the thing about the casting, but you know, it was what I love so much and about that, and I think it's so leading to the casting thing is that, and you mentioned about how Jerry's character had this comedic thing because he's the only one that has no problems. He's just aloof to everything. He's the overweight fun guy who doesn't.
And that's actually extremely important.
Exactly.
In the construction, in the archetypal construction of the characters, and it's also just kind of who Jerry is. So
it seems that way. Yeah, go ahead.
When we were on location, when we were in production, there were overwhelmingly, it was a wonderful and incredibly fun, joyful experience. I obviously made friends that I'm friends with 40 years later from all of that. But there were moments where Corey in particular was really a pain in the ass on the set. And I don't
Really?
and I don't want to say that unkindly. I just, you know, for 13-year-old me, I was like, oh my God, can you just fucking stop? For 53-year-old me, I'm like, oh my God, that poor kid.
Yeah.
He's suffering, and he's in so much pain, and he's lonely, and he's trying, and he's got so much responsibility on his shoulders, and just he's doing the best that he can, right? I've said it to Corey. I've said it in interviews for years. Corey can be a lot because Corey's been through a lot.
Yes.
Here's the thing about Corey. He's made mistakes, and he's been taken advantage of by some of the worst people in the world. But inside of him is a heart that desperately wants to do right by people. Like, there is a heart in him that wants to be loved, that wants to love in return. There's a heart in him that sees pain in people and wants to ease that pain, because by easing that pain, he can ease it in himself. But in 1985, none of us know any of that, right? All I know is this kid who's a little bit older than me is kind of obnoxious and just like is bugging the shit out of me. So there's this day where we're shooting the scene with the leeches, and the you know, they're like dog pile on Gordy, and they all pile down on top of me, and Corey's the last one on, and he puts his knee into the back of my leg, like on my hamstring, down near the inside of my knee, right? And it hurts really, really, really bad. And I asked him about it, and he was, and Corey maintains to this day he never meant to do that on purpose. He didn't know where his legs were, and he was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." I'm like, "Okay, I will take you at your word." In that scene, I fall down, and I'm trying to stay in the scene, and I'm trying to, like, you know, keep it together, and I'm crying because it hurts so much. And Rob cuts, and he's like, "What's wrong?" And I said, "Corey's knee's in my back of my leg." And Rob really let Corey have it. Was like, "Stop being such an asshole. Like, get your shit together. Like, what is going on?" And Corey tells the story. He's like, Rob reamed him out, made him cry, and straightened him up. A couple of days after that, I said to Rob, just like every actor in the world available for these roles, why did you cast this kid who's such a pain in the ass? And Rob said, all of you kids have so much in common with your characters. It's what makes it easy for me to help direct you. I saw hundreds of kids for each of your roles, and Corey was the only kid who had the amount of pain in his eyes and anger behind that pain that Teddy has. It's like, oh, that's so interesting. That makes a lot of sense. So let me see if I can put this together. River had been failed by every adult in his life. River needed to be protected by the adults in his life, and they didn't protect him. And Chris Chambers is kind of the same way, right? He says, I
Mm-hmm.
want to go someplace where nobody knows me. I just want to go someplace where I can just be me without someone else telling me who I'm supposed to be. Okay, that's Chris. I get that. Every time we see Jerry, every time Jerry walks into the set, every time Jerry goes to craft services, every time we are sitting down, he's making somebody laugh. There's just things are very funny. There is not a judgmental bone in his body. Oh my God, that's Vern. What about me? I don't get it. Like it's easy to make me cry, I guess. And I like to write stories. And I'm shy. Like I didn't understand. What is it about me? And the reason I didn't understand that is that I was absolutely an abused kid. I was abused by my dad and exploited by my mom. And just like Gordy says, I was the
Mm-hmm.
invisible kid in my house. My
Oh yeah.
brother had died. My parents couldn't put it together. My dad worships my younger brother and just made him the golden child. My mom made me a thing that she could use to chase what she wanted as a failed actor. And they both were really into the fact that I worked all the time and that supported the family. But I wasn't part of a family. I wasn't welcomed into the family that my brother and sister lived in. I was afraid of my dad. And the only time my dad ever opened his mouth to me was to yell at me or humiliate me or
Hmm.
bully me. Um, like, and I've never put my hands on another human being in anger. My dad did it to me all the time. And like, I didn't put any of that together because my mom gaslighted me about it so much that I wasn't in my I was in my 40s when I figured it out. I was like, oh my God, that's why I'm so good as this kid. So watching this movie 3 days in a row this last weekend, I can really see who that little kid is. And I'm like, Rob could see it. That's why he cast me. It's why I'm so good in this movie because I'm just being that kid. Where
Mm-hmm.
the hell were all the other adults in young Will's life who could have been like, hey, buddy, are you okay? Like
Mm-hmm.
things don't seem all right for you. And it is one of the reasons that I found so much comfort and companionship and safety in music. I am a person for whom music is not background noise ever.
Mm-hmm.
Music is a companion. Music is something that carries me through things. It keeps me safe. It focuses me. It says the things that I want to say but can't. My punk rock lets me get when I was younger, it let me work out the anger and aggression that I felt in a place where that was safe to do with other people who were like, it's cool to do this here. We're doing it for each other. Um, and like the weird kind of art rock that I love and the goth music that I love and the post punk that I love, it showed me that there are other people who are weird like I am who really love that. They're not ashamed of it. It's not something, who cares if my dad makes fun of it? Like these are, I don't care if my dad's going to make fun of me for going to Rocky Horror Picture Show. I love Rocky Horror
Oh,
Picture Show. I love the
I
people.
love
I love
it.
the
So
people that
good.
I see there. I love the people that you meet at shows and you share that like incredible, live, meaningful, unique experience. And then, you go off and you just sort of take those memories with you. So you're absolutely right. Rob Reiner cast 4 kids who could be those characters. And then when we got to Oregon, we went to location 2 weeks early before principal photography was to begin. And we did 2 weeks of theater games and improv exercises and blocking and rehearsal because I remember Rob saying, like, I got you kids together and you guys are really, really good and your instincts are fantastic. He didn't tell us this then, but I've heard him say it since. And he said, I got to teach these kids how to be like an ensemble. I have to teach them how to work together and lean on each other and support and believe in each other. And we did all these theater exercises and we all loved them. And that really helped bring us together and get us really comfortable together. A thing that I carried from my experience on Stand By Me throughout my entire career um, was how special and meaningful and valuable it is to be in a cast that loves each other and supports each other and looks out for each other. I'm very lucky that I got that in Stand By Me and Star Trek and Big Bang Theory. Like,
Yeah.
just it's a friend of mine and I day played on a show. I won't say what it is for reasons that will become obvious. The number one on their call sheet is the biggest diva I've ever experienced in my life. This person was like, oh, everyone else will be on set at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to roll in at about 11 because that's when I feel like showing up. And we were like, what the fuck, man? Who does this? Right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
uh, And that is very much the exception rather than the rule. I was asking my friend, I was like, "Oh, how late did they show up for you?" you know? But just to have those moments of like, yeah, man. And I imagine it's like being in a band together where you're just like, you trust each other. Like, I'm going to improvise a little bit. And I just know I'm going to just hold off for a minute and let the bass stop. And I know that there's going to be a fill. And here we go again. Like just those things where you can anticipate what the other person's going to do before they even know they're going to do it. And like that is magic. When we're firing together, it's like I don't like jam bands, but when jam bands are working and it's just like, oh my God. It is like watching a bunch of wizards just do magic in front of you.
Oh my God, yes. And I mean, basically all the shows, like when you just mentioned Star Trek too. I mean, that's another thing of perfect casting, for especially coming off of the Next Generation being the next big show post the original members, which
Yeah.
then stuck around for fucking, what, three, I mean, almost
We
seven,
did
8 years, and then
we
continue then
did
movies. Yeah.
Yeah, 7 years of original episodes, and then what did they do? 4 movies, I think, and then Star Trek Picard.
Dude.
Yeah, yeah, it was
Let
great.
me ask you. Let me ask you. When you show up for that in you said Portland, right? Is where you
Yeah.
shot Stand by Me. When you show up there, I mean, do you guys all have an idea? Because I know you've done a few things before, and the whole thing about, like you said about Corey, that all makes sense. He had already done Goonies, which didn't make, because we just had Martha Plimpton on. She even said it.
Yeah.
It didn't make a shitload of money when it came out. It was one of the top movies that year. I think it made like 68 million, which is respectable in 1985 or 86, but it's not like this huge movie. It's all the
I mean, that's
VHS
the
and
summer that Back to the Future just conquered
exactly.
the world.
Exactly. Yeah, which
Like,
but still, dude, Goonies fucking holds its own.
do
And
you
to
know
this
that we
day.
went? Do you know Rob Reiner rented a movie theater in Eugene, Oregon, where we filmed the movie,
No
and we
way.
went, the cast and crew, to see Goonies together
Oh, come on.
when it opened, and then we did it
Great.
also when Rivers movie Explorers came out. Rob rented out the same theater. The entire cast and crew went there, and we all watched it together. And like just sort of celebrated, the achievements of our castmates.
Was it?
It was just
Was
a
it?
super
So
cool
did you
thing.
know? Did you? I mean, obviously you have an idea who these guys are, but did you guys already know each other? I'm assuming, because it sounds like to me, like you'd said, and very similar with me and with your dad and you and me and my dad.
Oh, I'm
And
sorry.
no, dude. I mean, trust me, it's turned out, very, very. I can't get mad at him because I've turned out okay, and
Hmm.
he did introduce me to art and music, and I wanted to be closer to him, so I just got so into that, and obviously like was able to like make a career out of it, which is awesome. But I also feel like if the chip on my shoulder that I've had is what has propelled me, and who knows if that doesn't happen, maybe I'm
I get
not
it.
doing what I'm doing. So I
Yeah, I feel
can't
you.
everything just like you, it all worked out. It's
Yeah,
always, you know what I mean? It
yeah,
might have been some hurdles, and it's definitely tougher for some of us than
yeah,
others. And I wish I had it a lot easier. I know you do too, but it's
yeah,
like, dude, in the end, we're me and you, we're on a podcast talking about fucking television. We've
yeah.
done all this
Right.
cool shit. Like that's pretty rad. And
Yeah,
and the moral of that story is like, you're getting, your mom is pushing you into acting, and obviously you're booking, so when you show up to meet these guys, do you know them? Are there egos? Like you mentioned Corey, but it just feels like, I mean, it doesn't show at all. And I know acting is, I mean, there are movies and TV shows where people hate each other and they act like they're better, and they can
yeah,
pretend, or they can make it seem like they're family. But it's like there's something about the relationship that the four of you guys had that is just, it just feels like it's almost like the scene in Aliens when they're all waking up and they're all eating and they're just like,
yeah,
oh, because the reason that rules is because they shot that last. Do you know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
And it's
yeah,
like now by this point, they've known each other, they're friends. Like,
yeah.
how was it at the beginning? Like when you guys all showed up to that thing?
I remember getting to Eugene, and the first day that we had our like rehearsals and workshops and stuff, there was a conference room or a presidential suite or something like that in the hotel. And the production had it, and they took everything out of the room and made it just kind of like a big empty space where we could have rehearsals and things like that. I remembered all three guys because I'd seen them on auditions, and before before we had been cast, we had gone through an extensive screen testing process where they were mixing different actors and things. And I remember Sean Astin was there that day. Sean Astin was reading for Gordy. There was a moment in the early 2000s where I was like, dude, we've stayed friends since we were kids. There was a moment in the 2000s where I was like, dude, I'm just so incredibly envious that you get to be part of the Lord of Rings. And without missing a beat, Sean goes, oh, fuck yourself. You got Stand By Me.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I mean, all right, fair. Thank you. Weirdly, I knew River from real life. River and his family lived around the block from me in Sunland, California. My babysitter was across the street from this house where the weird hippies lived. And the weird hippies had a bunch of kids who all had weird nature names. That's what the kids in the neighborhood talked about, right? There was River and there was Leaf and there was Rain. And I was like, what? And I knew them from like riding bikes. I would be riding my bike and I would see those kids out. We would be climbing the tree at the babysitter's house in the front yard, and one of them would come over and climb the tree with us. And I always thought that was so weird and such a crazy coincidence that he was like literally around the block from where I lived. And I lived in a place that was like a lower middle class area that was like really on the edge of LA County. It was not a place you would expect him to be from. And I knew who Corey was because I'd seen Friday the 13th and I watched Bad News Bears. And, you know, he was on every TV show that exists in the 80s. Like he was a reliable child actor, you know, like he showed up, he did his work. He always knew his lines and he just worked endlessly. A thing that's so funny to me, and we gave him such a hard time about this over the weekend. Corey had all kinds of experience. He was the most experienced person of the four of us because he'd worked in so many movies. And by that point, he'd worked with Richard Donner and Steven Spielberg and Joe Dante. He'd already done Gremlins. He'd been in, you know, like all of these big things. And like he came to the set with this standing on top of this enormous body of work. And the rest of us were like, I guess, you know, whatever. And I'm not saying this unkindly.
Sure.
There was a touch of arrogance from him that just comes with being 14.
Of course.
Feeling like I know what I'm doing, I know where I am and you know and all of that. But I didn't really know them until the end of that 2 weeks. And in my adult life, last year, I experienced one of the most painful, shocking betrayals by longtime friends I've ever experienced in my life. I was astonished. I was like, oh. And from that, I was like, okay, the drawbridge is now up. I'm not letting people close to me anymore. I'm not letting new people into my life. If you're going to come in, I'm going to vet the hell out of you before you even get to come across the parade grounds, you know, where that the arms are covered.
Oh, for sure.
But back then I was like, I was so lonely and I was so, it was like a life raft for me. Anything that I could be part of, a cast that I could be part of, a group of people that would welcome me, that would be there for me, that I could rely on. I was like, please let me be part of that. So when we were there and Rob was like, you guys are friends and you're all in this ensemble together and this is about you guys as a group, I was like, yeah, sign me up. I'm in. Like, I'm all in. And I was just like, I will be here for you guys and we will be friends and we will hang out. And we had the same sort of like rough patches that kids have when they're kids, but overall it was a really wonderful, really meaningful experience of for people really being supportive of each other and getting through all of that stuff. And it's only Rob's third movie, man. Like, that's crazy, right? He'd done Spinal Tap and Sure Thing. He could have done anything he wanted, and he wanted to do this. And after this, he stayed really, really focused on character-driven movies with a little bit of an ensemble to them. And I feel very lucky and very grateful to be an actor who got to experience what it's like to be directed by Rob Reiner.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it's got to be just a trip to, because you've done, like I said, I mean, by the way, let's not sleep on fucking Toy Soldiers, bro. That movie rules. That movie rules, and you get to work with Sean again. You know?
Yeah, that was so much fun.
I loved that movie. I remember seeing that on cable and always was drawn to that movie or renting it. But it's such a, I mean, dude, it's like Die Hard. Like, you know what I mean? It's you're in a teen Die Hard in a sense.
I mean, listen, that movie was so beloved they ripped it off and made it as Masterminds with Patrick Stewart like just a few years later.
Oh yeah, oh for sure.
Movie, right?
But the thing is, it's like you're now what you're doing. And before we get into the songs, I got to keep talking about this as we're on the subject, is to be able to 40 years later now with, you know, with the three of you, you know, obviously, you know, Sands River, you know, how has that been being able to go out and really see? Because I know when you're doing it, and like, you know, how old were you when it came out? Were you?
I turned 13 during production. My birthday's in July. So I turned 13 during production. We wrapped on River's birthday, August 23rd, 1985. And then the movie sat for a year, and it was released, limited release, August 8th, 1986. And then it was released in wide release like 2 weeks later.
Oh, I mean, but you're still young enough where it's like you get the idea of how yeah, I'm in a movie, this is awesome, and I'm working, and this is great. People seem to like it. Now I got money coming in, and now more projects. But it's really something that I think, you know, it's probably. Did you realize how impactful the movie was then, or is it taking you all of this time to now go out 40 years later and for it to really just be palpable, where you're like, holy shit, like because it's, dude, it's the same thing about, like, you've done so much great shit. So I'm not just trying to say your career is one thing at all, but you know what I'm saying? You did something that culturally, you know, everything about it, it's so important to the fabric of the universe for so many people that are alive today, which is so important.
I really appreciate that. Thank you. Most actors will go their entire lives wanting to be part of something as significant as Stand By Me.
Yeah.
I mean, I would like to be in something that's half as significant as Stand By Me. It's rare. It's a blessing. It's a gift. I do not take it for granted. When we were in production, I was too young to know that it is possible for one or more actors to turn in incredible performances on the set that are butchered in editing. I did not know at the time that you can read a script that is flawless from start to finish, and by the time the movie comes out, so many people at the studio have had to like make their mark on it that it doesn't even look like what you thought you were going to do. It is so rare. Just getting anything made is incredibly hard. You know, the money for Stand By Me evaporated the day before production began.
What do you mean?
All on location, all the equipment is rented, call sheets are printed, we're ready to go. The studio yanks the funding. And Rob, at the last minute, calls Norman Lear and is like, I'm on location. The studio just said they're gonna shit can the movie. Can you help me? And Norman Lear wrote him a check to get the movie made. So I knew on the set, this is a good story. These are good actors. Rob Reiner is a good director. I had that overwhelming sense that, like, oh yeah, everything about this is good. I did not expect, and I did not allow for the possibility that it would be what it is. I don't think any of us could have predicted that, especially Jerry, who came back from location and went back to public school in New York and was given this piece of advice from his father, given in love. Jerry, don't tell anybody about that movie that you made because it's not going to come out. Most movies don't ever come out. No one will ever know about it. So for a year, Jerry was like, I guess this movie that I'm really proud of isn't coming out. And I was just like, you know, on the other side of the country, just waiting. to know that it's eventually gonna drop. We're really lucky that it has connected with so many people across multiple generations for 40 years. Rob tells stories of meeting people who tell him how it very accurately reflects their childhood experience. And he said after a while, he stopped asking them, oh, do you live in a rural area like the boys from Stand By Me? Because more often than not, they were like, no, I grew up in the middle of Manhattan, or I lived in downtown Chicago, or I grew up in Kansas City. But it's what I did with my friends. I have spent a lot of time the last few months reflecting on this phrase from the film. I never had any friends later on again in life like I did when I was 12. And he says, Jesus does anyone. And it's a profound statement, and it was profound when this was written, because I think that's something we can all relate to. Yeah, there are incredibly special friendships that only happen when you're like 12 years old. Why is that? I've spent a lot of time thinking about it. 3 of the 4 boys in Stand By Me have experienced unspeakable traumas in our personal lives by the time we get to the set, as have those characters, right? I was thinking back to the kids that I was friends with when I was in elementary school and like up to the beginning of junior high, before that weird teen idol thing happened, and I like just didn't have friends anymore. I couldn't go be a person in the world. But before then, every one of us, I think that we see something in each other when we're 12. We see ourselves reflected in the eyes of these kids that become our incredibly good friends for that moment in our life, because we're not judging each other. We're not keeping score about anything at all. We are showing up for each other, and each of us in the friendship is so grateful to be seen by someone else. We are so grateful to have someone who we can rely on, who feels safe for us. And all of that is shattered when we get into junior and senior high school, when social pressures arrive and people start, it's just a natural part of human development. We kind of turn on ourselves and we try on different masks and different outfits and figure out who we're going to be. But at that moment in our lives, we're pure. We're very real, right? We haven't yet learned, most of us, right? Like how to do these things that become those hurtful, cliquish behaviors in junior and senior high school. And the movie reflects those deep, meaningful friendships of these kids who have all been traumatized, who are all suffering, who have all felt the meaningful and enduring loss. The same way all of us actors had. It took me a really long time to figure that out and figure out why it is so special and why that part of the film, those friendships and the relationships, resonate with audiences without regard to what generation they're in, what country they live in, what their primary language is. Like, it's such a human experience. I'll say it again. It's just such an incredible blessing to have been part of something like that.
Dude, that rules. That rules. I mean, by the way, like this is great. What a perfect album for you to come on and then to have to kind of like sync up with Stand By Me. You're right. It's like you literally have done something that people like actors, in any profession, to do something that has a lasting like impact. And it's great. I love that you guys are on tour with it right now, man. I really do. And I'm so happy that you guys have stayed friends. And I'm so happy that, because did you ever have a moment, like, before we get into the songs? I know, don't worry, everybody, we're going to talk about television. I promise you. But it's like, did you ever have a moment where it's like, oh man, like you almost hated it? Not hated it, but like, does that make sense?
I carried a really, I put a burden on myself for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
So My mom forced me to be an actor.
You did not want to be an actor whatsoever, really?
And it is not something that I wanted to do.
What did you want to do? If you would have had the choice, what would Wil Wheaton have wanted to do? Like if you could, but you're so young.
No,
something music.
I would have done something with music. I really wanted to be a disc jockey. I really wanted to play music for people and introduce people to their favorite bands.
I
really wanted to be that person who comes out of the car radio, who's bringing together everybody in LA County, who's putting us all in the same kind of ephemeral space while we listen to Joe Benson or Rodney Bingenheimer or Richard Blade or any of those guys, Jim Ladd, just like listening to Joe Frank on like public radio in the 80s. Just I really loved that. That's what I really wanted to do. But one of the ways my mom really kept me going on auditions and kept me really under her control was by implying that the way I could earn my dad's love and affection was through being a really good, really successful actor. So Stand By Me happens, and I remember thinking, finally, this movie is like, look at how good it is. And it's the number one movie in America, and the song's number one on Billboard. And look at all these interviews. Everybody wants to talk to me. Finally, my dad is going to care about me and love me. And he didn't. And it changed absolutely nothing. And what that created for me was, well, that wasn't enough. I have to go better. I have to do something better than Stand By Me. I got to prove to my dad that Stand By Me wasn't a fluke. It wasn't just me getting lucky. I really am worthy. I really am deserving of feeling loved by my dad. As a father myself, I cannot comprehend making a choice to do anything other than unconditionally, fully, maximally love and support my children. I don't know how that guy made the choice that he made. I don't know what he hoped to get out of it. What he gets out of it is I have no relationship with my parents now. And this thing that I know my mom would just really want to be part of, right? To like, about her, like, fuck you guys. You had your chance to be my parents and you chose not to be. So I spent all these years working really, really hard to find something that was a prestigious work. I passed on a lot of big popcorn movies in the aftermath of Stand By Me that probably would have made me a lot of money and probably would have helped build a little bit of a career. But I didn't have a competent manager. My mom was like, I'm going to be your manager. So I had an incompetent manager I couldn't fire. And I kept trying on my own to get out of the shadow of it. And for a while, I was deeply resentful that it had happened so early and that it was this, it cast a shadow over me. And then sometime around the middle of my run on Star Trek, I was like, yeah, I mean, I could treat it that way, or I could be really happy and proud that I'm standing on its shoulders, and I could be really grateful for it. And even then I was afraid to really take ownership of it. I spent my 30s and the first half of my 40s as a functioning alcoholic, and I've been sober for almost 10 years. And when I quit drinking, everything that had been obscuring all of the pain that I was trying to hide from, every coping mechanism I had stacked up to insulate me from the reality of what my childhood was, it all went away. And to deal with the pain and reality of that, I started EMDR therapy and working with a therapist, and it's taken a long time. I mean, it's been almost 10 years, but I finally feel like genuine ownership of a lot of the stuff that I've done. That was always mine to begin with, but I just didn't have what it takes I didn't have what I needed to be able to like enjoy that and feel safe enjoying it, like someone wasn't going to rip it out of my hands.
Oh God, dude, it's one, I'm so happy that you can enjoy the shit that you've done. And it's tough, especially when you have that kind of a childhood, whether it's most artists, that we love, that, we might not even know, and some of them, the Amy Winehouse is, for Christ's sake, she's
God.
she's an example of someone that just couldn't handle it, but she's literally fighting for the love of her dad, fighting the love of Blake, and then also is in the media and just could not handle it. And so we see it all the time. And the idea, same thing with me, dude. It's like the addiction, all of that, it all stems. And people always ask, like, don't you need this program or that program? It's like the thing that kept me sober is therapy, is like digging into why you use and then being able to step back. Because even when I was having my most success, at the time in my career, when I had my TV shows and this, that, it's like, oh, I couldn't enjoy 1 second of it because I'm still dealing with all the pain that I've got. And so years late, I mean, dude, people, I mean, I bet it's the same thing. People probably complimented you like, oh my God, I love this. And you like, people would compliment me and I would be like, I turned into the elephant man. Like, no, look away. Like, I'm a freak. Totally. I don't deserve any of this. Like,
I would feel embarrassed. I would feel embarrassed. And what I would think and what I thought for the longest time was, oh, they just don't know. These people that are telling me that I'm, they don't know. Like, I've just fooled them. My dad's the one who really knows. And it took a lot of time, and I know that there's somebody watching or listening to this who very painfully and uncomfortably feels something familiar in this. I want to tell that person, you're enough. There's nothing wrong with you.
Oh yeah.
It's them. It's all them. It has nothing to do with you. I hope that you can find your way to a place that I have found where it feels safe to accept that and have the sadness of, gosh, I wish that you had made different choices, whoever it is that caused the pain, rather than, oh, I wish I was different, or I'm not going to be satisfied with my life or whatever. You're enough, buddy.
Yeah. It takes a lot, dude. A lot of people don't, it takes, countless years of therapy for people to understand that. And it's such a simple thing, just being like, oh man, this journey's so short. Just enjoy this little bit of time. Don't waste your time. Like, the past has already happened. Like, know that doesn't define you, and you can't worry about the future because it hasn't happened yet. So just know that, like, and for the most part, most people are doing okay, and they don't even realize it because they're just so stuck on the shit that fucked them up earlier, and it's crazy that, like, sometimes it just takes getting older, realizing that, because my 30s, I was still dealing with it. And then you get into your 40s and you're like, it's not that bad. This shit rules. It's like, I've got maybe if I'm lucky, I've got like 40 summers left. I got 40 Christmases. Like I want to try to enjoy the rest of them. And you can find, the simple pleasures in life through, like you said earlier, getting lost in music, building those friendships. And, yes, you have to keep some walls up and not be, not let everybody in. But there's also something about not keeping that, like you said, keeping the drawbridge up. Like, you can't keep it up all the time, because if you keep that up all the time, you're going to miss out on really deep connections with really incredible people, trust me, I'm saying that to myself, because I've always been, since like 2012, I've kept that drawbridge up, and it's like, I'll let it down a little bit. And then I'm like, nah, and I do so much shit by myself, and I do enjoy that. But there is something about, your parents or your family does not define who you are. They, you aren't them, and you can really, the older you get, you can really start shedding all that bullshit. And that's what's kind of beautiful about life, dude. It's like you wouldn't be who you are and be in such a positive mindset if you hadn't gone through all that, learned, and then been able to kind of, like, accept and just go, no, it's okay. And it is okay. It is. It's crazy, dude. It's crazy that, we make this journey so difficult on so many levels when it doesn't have to be. Like, it really doesn't,
One of the things that I absolutely love about punk rock is the community. First of all, it's the flattest of all the musical genres in terms of relationship between performer and audience. Performer and audience are like this, in pop music, performers here and audience is somewhere down here, but in punk, it's like this, right? Mm-hmm. And the community of people that's drawn to that overwhelmingly just say, hey, you're weird. You got some weird shit going on. That's fucking great. Bring it in. Come on.
Come here. We got you.
Weird shit too. oh, people treat you weird because you like this kind of music or because your hair is funny or because of the way you dress. Come on, we don't care. Let's go. And it doesn't matter. And I'm not talking about like, oh, you can show up in like your vest and your, and all of that stuff. I have seen extremely preppy kids in collared shirts at punk shows.
Oh,
Just
sure.
having the absolute time of their life, being allowed to exist exactly as they are. I don't think the importance of music as a catalyst for healing can be overstated. I just think it's so incredibly important. How many times do you hear people talk about, I heard this song and I was like, oh my God, that was written for me. I saw a thing in there. I remember I was dating a girl when I was younger. It just didn't work. It was silly and should have ended a long time before it did. Dookie comes out and there's that line in Dookie. You can't go forcing something if it's just not right. And I was like, God damn it, Billy Joe Armstrong, you're right. I'm breaking up with her.
I love it.
We both deserve better.
But that's what's so great about. I mean, there was moments in this record, to bring it back, that it's like it did feel like whether I because lyrically, I mean, you gotta give fucking what's his name like real kudos on the lyrics. Like he really is like it is like we said, it is a very concrete New York in the 70s.
Yeah.
But what he's talking about it feels, I don't know how to put it, but it's like it definitely it transcends just the year. Like what Tom is saying, it has like lyrics that feel to me like it's raw, being like that punk thing, but there is this poetic like genius in some of the things that he's saying, like even in the title track, like not the title track, in the opening track, See No Evil. I mean, it opens up with this like very like taut energy. There's this tension and release with the guitar style, and Tom seems to just be like, he's not forcing the lyrics with the music. It almost is it doesn't feel, it fits, but it doesn't, but it's perfect in that capacity of that song. And I feel like what a great way for me to be a person to like listen to this album and be like, this is the first time I'm hearing Television, and besides Marquee Moon, is this be the opening song? I think it's a perfect way to open the fucking record.
Yeah, lyrically, he is saying to the listener, I understand destructive urges. I see no evil. Come on, you're safe here. Let's go. I'll be with you for roughly 45 minutes.
Yes.
and this is where we're going to be. I very much love that.
I wanted to ask you a question about See No Evil. Is like you were in a movie that I really like, but I don't think you were very happy with it. The Curse, like it is to me. It is a. I love that movie. I love Lovecraft. I mean, I think all of his shit like is super weird. Like, what was your experience like working on something like that? I mean, it's opposite than everything you would have done up at that point.
It was horrific.
It was
horrific. It is the reason I have CPTSD.
Really?
It was a horrific, abusive, miserable time in my life. When you watch that movie, you are seeing two children who are being actively abused day in and day out around adults who did absolutely nothing to protect us.
Really? I didn't know. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to bring that up. I didn't realize that.
It's okay. You don't know, and I'm happy to talk about it because it does come up from time to time, and I think it's important that people know, because one of the ways that abusers get away with being abusive is the people that they targeted are ashamed and afraid to talk about it. And I'm not. We didn't do anything wrong. That was 100% on my parents. They should have protected me.
Yes.
My parents should have put my sister and me on an airplane and brought us back to America when they were breaking every single child welfare law, when they were putting us in harm's way day after day after day. That film, I didn't want to do it. I read the script and it was awful. It was a piece of shit. It was a garbage straight to video horror movie. And at that time in my life, this was 1987. Stand By Me had been out for a little bit. I'd done a couple of like smaller projects, some TV things, and I knew the next movie is very important.
Sure.
Right? The sophomore movie is more important than the first at bat. And this studio came to my parents, and they took advantage of my parents' inexperience and greed and how easily manipulated they were. They threw an obscene amount of money at them. And I was told by my dad, you don't have a choice. You're doing this movie.
Huh.
And
Wow.
I didn't want to do it. And they forced me to. And it was, in addition to being an absolute piece of shit that took all the wind out of my career sails, River Phoenix went on to do The Mosquito Coast after Stand By Me, and my parents forced me into this piece of shit, where Italian horror director Lucio Fulci tied chickens to my sister, who was 6 years old, tied chickens to my sister's body and let them peck at her. When one of the makeup artists on the film cut my sister's face with an X-Acto knife to make it look, because she didn't want to do the makeup, where there were adult women in the cast who were sexually inappropriate with me. The director of the film there's a scene where I'm supposed to be pushed down into what could have been mud, but he made it actual cow shit, because he wanted to like get a real reaction from me. In every one of these instances, I told my parents what was going on, and they never stood up for me. They never protected me. The terror that I felt while I was on that set, it's still with me to this day.
I can imagine, man. I had no idea.
It is only through extensive therapy and extensive reprocessing work that I've been able to really get that kind of dialed down and tamed. The primary reason I became a functioning alcoholic is I just wanted to go to sleep.
Yeah,
I
can
wanted
imagine.
to be able to fall asleep without the terror. I would start to fall asleep, and then I would wake up in absolute pants-shitting terror every single night. It was awful.
Oh my God.
I was super depressed. I was suicidal for a really long time because it was so intense. I'm okay now. I got over all of it. The people who did that to my sister and me have never been held accountable for what they did. The director of that movie, David Keith, went on to found some I Care About Kids organization. And I would think that if he cared about kids, he would reach out to the adult children who he participated in the abuse of and fucking apologize. And never in all of these years.
That's horrible. I had no idea. I'm so sorry, dude. I did not mean to bring that up. And like, because it's like, I always loved like 80s horror movies. And
I get it.
know,
I totally get it. That is a movie that has a lot of fans, and I just want them to know, because I would love it if that movie disappeared forever. I would love it if people just stopped watching it. And I would love it if people would say, that's a movie of kids being abused. So like,
fuck that movie, dude.
If you wouldn't willingly watch kids being abused, then
I mean, no, but let me ask, is that something that you were able, like years later or whatever, to talk to Corey about, and kind of like, because I mean, just all the history of the stuff that he had to go through too. Yes. It's like you found out later. It's like, I mean, has that made you and him closer over the years? Because I don't know, Jerry. He just seems like he's had this very, I don't want to say a very easy life. He's just a fun guy in whatever capacity. But there, like I said, to now talk to you and hear the because I had no idea. I knew of it, but I didn't know it was like that. And then obviously Corey has been very outspoken about like the abuse that he had to go through. I mean, I can imagine, like, is that something that, was there a moment where you and him were both like, dude, what the fuck? You too? And then,
Yes. Around the same time that my life and River's life diverged, my life and Corey's life diverged.
Mm-hmm.
After production, like I said, I was like, this guy's kind of a bully. I don't need to hang out with him. I still really liked him as an actor. I loved all the movies that he was in. But I very often felt like, I was just like, no, I've got my own friends, my nerdy gaming friends and stuff, and I don't need to maintain that relationship. River went off in his direction and was in a lot of pain, and both of them were using drugs. Corey got sober before River died and tried to get there to like help River and couldn't. I just never really had a reason to like be close to him. During that entire era, it was a lot of like, I don't know, I just felt like there were there was dark, chaotic energy around Corey, and he had this gravitational pull that was catching just really yucky people in it. And I didn't want to be around any of that at all.
Of course.
So I just kept my distance without judgment. And recently, like within the last 2 years, we were both at like a sci-fi convention. He was there for Lost Boys. I was there for Star Trek. And we saw each other in the green room and just sat down and had lunch together. And for the first time ever in our lives, we talked about our shared experiences as abused kids, our shared experience as kids who were exploited by their parents. And, you know, one of the things that my mom would do when I was growing up is she would find the worst behaved mom in an audition or on the set and point to that terribly behaving mom and make sure that I knew that she wasn't like that. And, you know, one of the really unspeakable things Corey's mom did when we started Stand By Me is she brought him up to Eugene, Oregon at 14 years old and just dropped him off. It was like, you don't get to have a parent here. Go to work. I'm going to have a guardian for you while you go to work. And Corey talks about how much that hurt him.
Sure.
And you know, a lot of kids think that would be so great. You could do whatever you want. Like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cool for like a couple of days, but then you're like, fuck, I need my mom.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, even his dad, who gave less of a shit about Corey than my dad gave about me, actually came up to the set to spend time with him because somebody from production was like, your kid is like having a real hard time. We talked about that a lot. And I was like, my God, Corey, we are so alike. You know, we had a lot of the same experiences as kids. Thankfully, I was not sexually abused the way he was. And I was really kept out of a lot of the teen clubs and teen party things that were like a lot of predators showed up at those things. I just was never interested in that. You know, it was a lifestyle that I didn't care about. I didn't want to be in Hollywood. I didn't want to be on teen magazines. I didn't want to be on Entertainment Tonight. I didn't want anybody to pay attention to me. I wanted the work to be the work and I wanted my life to be my life. And the sooner I could stop doing the work and do what I wanted to do, the better.
Yeah,
that was
for
just,
sure.
You know, that was how I wanted to do everything. I'm really, really glad that we had those conversations, he and I, that we did within the last couple of years. And I'm grateful that we spent 8 hours a day together on a bus over the last 4 days, driving from city to city to do these shows together, because we talked a lot about what our experiences were like growing up. And we talked a lot about those things that we shared that were similar. I wish that I'd known.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's one of the things, you know, abusers, they try to isolate their targets from anybody else who could tell them, P.S., this is not okay what's happening to you. And I think that each of us experienced that. We're never going to be super close friends. We're good friends. And I respect him and I love him and I care about him. And we just have very, very different lives.
Sure.
And what we do have, the three of us, what we do have is very special. And it was real cool to experience that and reaffirm that day after day after day on the first leg of our tour. I am so looking forward to next year. I think we've announced 2 or 3 dates. We have more that we're hoping for. We haven't announced them because we haven't fully booked them yet. But that's definitely in our plans of, things to do, to take this out and share this experience with more people.
Whose idea was this to do the 40-year anniversary trip? Were you approached by somebody? Was there a catalyst that kind of like moved everything forward?
Yeah, there's a guy named Dan Pasternak. He used to be a stand-up comedian. He was a producer on Portlandia. He is a friend of Jerry's. And he'd been doing this type of tour. He's done it with a documentary about John Candy, and I think they had done it with The Breakfast Club, or maybe they'd done it with like Say Anything, or just one of those kind of like 80s, Brat Pack movies. And he said to Jerry, I think with the anniversary of Stand By Me coming up, this probably seems like it would be a cool thing to do. And Jerry called me and was like, what do you think? And I said, well, yeah, we have to do this. Like, this is such a great idea. And it's it's just been a couple of shows, but it's been really cool. It's been really, really neat. And the thing that's really, I expect to see people our age, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's young people too.
Of course.
There's kids. Gen Z loves this movie. And I think that Stand By Me right now is a real important movie for young people, especially boys, to see. Listen, the male loneliness epidemic is real, but it's a male consequences epidemic, right? Like, dudes, if you listen to shitty, toxic men who tell you, go be really shitty and be a bully and treat women like crap and try to start fights all the time, nobody wants to be around that, dude. You're lonely because the people that you're listening to are exploiting you and controlling you, right? Because you're always online, because you're always in your phone, because the space you are in most is a space where there is not a person in front of you. There's a device in front of you. One of the things Stand By Me shows is that relationships among young men can be healthy and emotional and vulnerable and strong and masculine and real right in front of each other. And it's I think that it is a good inspiration, and it's a good reminder to younger audiences. Like, it does not have to be the way it is for you guys right now. And this is, and I know I'm a very old man talking about this, and I'm shouting at a cloud and all of that stuff, but just I see how young people are hurting. I really see it a lot, and I'm really happy to see people come out for this to experience the togetherness.
Oh my God, it's you had mentioned it earlier about like you want to be a disc jockey and introduce people to cool music. It's like, how could people our age that now have kids not want to introduce those movies that we've mentioned growing up? The Back to the Futures, the Goonies, the Gremlins, whatever the fuck it is, and this, because this is like, this is like an adult kids movie where it's like the adults can love this, but then kids can also still feel like we can, I'm that guy or I'm this. And it's just, it really has a weight to it that is so, important. And there's the life lessons, there's the growing up. It's like, it really is. It's just, it's something that you cannot duplicate just this perfect 2 hours or hour 45, however long it is, just it's everything about
minutes.
Yeah, I mean, and
89. It's so tight. It moves along so beautifully. Watching it this way, I'm starting to analyze it.
I bet, yeah.
Like I am a writer now. My two primary jobs, I host an audiobook podcast, an audiobook short story podcast, and I write short stories of my own. That's what I do. That literary world is where I live, and I read stuff and I can't help but analyze it as I'm going, and I'm seeing I'm seeing how that they put this together, and I'm seeing how they moved it all along. So I started doing that with Stand By Me as well, and seeing how it is paced and it's just, it's so
perfect.
It's so good. Hey, I have to pee.
Go pee. I'm going to pee. Are you pee? I'll pee. We'll be back here. Lickety split.
Let's all pee.
Where are we at? Oh, we all went to pee. Everybody went to pee. I love it. Hold on.
This has been so good.
Vision. Hold on. I'm just getting the guy. Marquee Moon. Hold on. And I'm just putting you. So I'm just talking to the guy who's making our poster for this show. So I'm putting, hold on. There it is. Booyah. Dude. All right. Venus. We're only on the second track. We'll move this. We'll move this.
Yeah,
I only wanted to bring up Venus, because we talked so much about Star Trek. And by the way, it's like this is a poetic song. It's a little bit moodier. It's lyrically ambiguous. I wrote, dreamy urban imagery, but I want to focus on the word Venus, which, to work on something like Star Trek, The Next Generation for you to be as part of something. I mean, and like everything I've learned about you, and please, I'm saying this with all due respect, you are the inner nerd of you gets to come out. Which that's not nerd's not a bad word. It's just it is a word. It is just like, were you already a fan of Star Trek before you got, so how did that just like fucking just flip your lid, the fact that you got that? I mean, was that probably the thing you wanted the most out of anything in your career? I can only imagine like what that audition was like.
My earliest memory of Star Trek is sitting in the yard this would have been about 1975 or 76. Would have been 1975. It's before we went to Texas. In 1975, my dad made a teepee in the yard out of a couple of broomsticks and what we called the big blue blanket. And my great aunt had given me a little wind-up plastic record player and a few records to play on it. And one of the records was from Power Records, and it was a Star Trek dramatization called Crier in the Emptiness. And it is, it's not even the Star Trek actors. It's other people doing these characters. And I listened to that thing to death. Like, I loved it. And it was one of those things where you flip through the book, right? While it's going on. A few years later, this is probably now 1978, maybe 1979. I'm either in kindergarten or first grade, and it's like lunchtime, and the kids want to go play like Cops and Robbers or Star Wars, and like I want to play Star Trek on the jungle gym, and I want to be Mr. Spock because I've been watching the show every day after school. And when I'm that young, I don't fully appreciate all the philosophical implications of it. But what I realize as an adult is that I grew up watching a multicultural, like demonstrably secular humanist show about what become my values, my fundamental humanist values, which is one of the reasons that I say art is so important. It's one of the reasons that I always point out, if art, every single one of us who works in the arts, especially those of us who work in the performing arts, we are constantly being pushed down by people who tell us that it's not, this isn't a real job, or anyone can do it, or we're going to replace you with a fucking computer or whatever. Mm-hmm. That is always because they are afraid of how we inspire people to challenge their authority. We inspire people to find ways to rise out of a place a powerful person would like to keep them. And I think that it's really important. So when I was cast in Star Trek, and I was like, oh my God, I get to go be on the Enterprise. I get to be in the transporter room. I get to wear a spacesuit and use a communicator. Every single piece of it was even cooler than you think it was. It was an absolute dream come true for me. The only other cast member of Next Generation who considered themselves a fan of Star Trek as opposed to being familiar with Star Trek was LeVar Burton.
Really?
He and I were the ones who really liked it. But
I have
none of them loved it the way I did.
Oh my God. I have a LeVar Burton story. It's not, I'm going to say dirty. It's actually a very big compliment to him, but there was a bathhouse I go to and it was like, there's a guy section, a girl section. It's in LA called the Beverly Hot Springs. I don't know if I should say this. All I'm just saying is, dude, big ups to LeVar Burton. That motherfucker God damn, he's packing heat, dude. Let's just say that, dude. Fucking reading Rainbow. That guy's killing the game, dude. He is. He is. I don't know how to put it, but be classy. But good God, LeVar, you're killing it, dude.
My podcast is called It's Storytime with Wil Wheaton.
Yeah.
And every week I do a short piece of speculative fiction from like Lightspeed, Uncanny, Clark's World, places like that. And I started it because I was inspired by LeVar. I was such a fan of LeVar Burton reads. When I would walk my dog, when I would go just take like my exercise walks or whatever, I would listen to him read me stories. When it was time to go to bed, I would listen to LeVar read me stories. I loved it. And when his podcast ended, I reached out to him and I said, like, I have this idea to do a podcast of my own that's very much inspired by yours, but I don't want to step on your toes, and I am only going to do this if I have your blessing. And LeVar was like, not only do you have my blessing, I now demand that you do this, and I will be there for you every single step of the way. You can always pick up the phone and call me.
I love that.
And when my first episode was released, LeVar called me and he said, I want you to know how proud of you I am and how happy I am for you. And this is a big moment for you. And I didn't want it to just be a text message. And I cannot tell you anything. If you don't know who LeVar Burton is by the end of that, no one's ever going to know who he is.
Yeah. Was everybody on set? Because you're obviously the youngest person in that cast. I mean, was everybody, not say they didn't treat you like an adult, because how old are you when you started working on Star Trek?
I was on there from 14 to 19, and the cast never treated me like a kid.
Really? I know it felt so great. Yeah, especially this especially coming off some other movies where, like we talked about The Curse, it's like to finally get into something that like that must have been just, and for something so important for you too,
When I would go home from the set, like I went into a house where I just didn't fit and I was not welcome and I couldn't relax. And I hated that.
Yeah.
And I would go to work and my castmates treated me like a family more than my family did. And I finally told them all a few years ago how much I appreciated that. Like I never talked about it. I never talked with anybody about what was going on at home because I was embarrassed and ashamed and believed it was my fault. And they were the ones that inspired me. And like I could have so easily followed River or Corey. Easily. It is a miracle that I did not. And I think that a big part of that is that the people I was close to that had credibility with me were nerds like I was, right? We were board game nerds when it was extremely not cool to be a board game nerd. It's pre-tabletop. This is a time where being a Star Trek nerd was not, this is when William Shatner did the Get a Life bit on SNL that killed, that was so funny. There was nothing cool about it, right? Those were my friends. And so like the draw of the darkness of the dangerous kind of like exclusive world of that is sort of sold from that, like, you're going to have a great Hunter S. Thompson experience. You're probably not going to have that experience. It's probably be pretty terrible for you. If that was ever presented to me, the people that I was friends with were like, that's lame. What do you want to do any of that for? Like that's, but my castmates were like, oh, fuck no. No. We're going to keep an eye on you and we're going to take care of you. There's a legendary Christmas party at the Cheers set in like 1989, which probably had about 75 pounds of cocaine inside of it, and we were having our Christmas party the same night they were having their Christmas party. And I went to our Christmas party, and didn't drink or do drugs or anything like that. Just hung out with my friends. And then they were all a bunch of them were going to go over to that set. And I was like, oh, I want to go. And I just so clearly remember Frakes and Marina being like, no, that is no place for a kid. You are not going to that set. And I'm really glad that they kept me away. But they still to this day, they're all in their 70s. When I need that moment where I would be a son reaching out to a parent, I can text our group chat and say, I just, will you guys be my parents for a minute? And every single one of them shows up. It's really
I
wonderful.
love that. I love that, man. And once again, another TV show of just perfect casting, especially to take the torch from the original Star Trek cast. You know, everybody on that show was just perfect. And I wasn't a Star Trek fan of the original, but then I became a fan of the Next Generation, and my sister and everybody. It was you didn't have to be like, you know, into science fiction. It was just a good show. And it was also one of those shows that sometimes you could just jump into an episode and just be a part of it and not have to worry about, do I know everything? You just kind of, you know, could go with the flow of it.
That's something I really like about the new Strange New World show. It's episodic, and you can see one episode out of order, and it doesn't matter. I really love the long form storytelling of season long arcs. I think it's cool. When we were doing Star Trek, we wanted to do episodes like that. We really wanted to do 2 and 3 part episodes. They didn't start doing that till Deep Space Nine. We really wanted to do that. And as much as I enjoy that as an audience, and also like really cherish it as a performer, now I've come around to where I much prefer episodic. I prefer something that I can hop in, and 42 minutes later I can hop right back out. I've had a wonderful time, and I can move on.
Yeah, that's why Law and Order SVU, man. It's just they play it all the time, and you can start. You know exactly what's going on. I loved South Park when they did that one season where they had the continuous story. But there's something great just about this is the episode. It's perfect. I don't need to know anything else. Simpsons, everything. It's just there is something
every
beautiful
now and then
about
I just need like something from season 4 of The Simpsons.
Yes,
that's all. I just need that, and then I'll be fine.
Yes. Oh my God.
Don't talk to me until I've had my season 4 of The Simpsons.
Oh my God, dude. It's I think the greatest run in television history. I'll say 3 up until about 16 of The Simpsons.
Oh really? I won't go that far. I completely cut it off at 12.
Really?
And even 10 to 12. This is a whole other podcast.
Of course. Oh, dude, you're talking
a 3-hour conversation.
No, but you know what's, you're 100% right. But this is the thing, and I'll give them their flowers, because I'll watch football on Sundays, and then I'll leave the TV on Fox or whatever, and like a Simpsons episode will come on, and I haven't watched. It hasn't been like must-watch television, the new episodes in years, and yet one will be on. I'll still watch it, and I'll go, it's still great. It's not. It's not, in 1995 or even like the early 2000s. It's still great though. It's matzo ball soup. And I think that's the same shit with the Next Generation and any Star Trek.
That's a really good way to describe it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. You feel good.
Yeah. Every time it's put in front of you, no matter what mood you're in, you're like, oh, actually that sounds really good.
Yeah, it's never bad. It's never bad. It's dude, it's not as good, but they've been on for this air for fucking damn near 40 years at this point. It's like, of course you're going to start, you've done every story. Like, what else can you, like, where else can you, even Star Trek, it's like, where else can they explore? Like, they've been everywhere. Like,
big universe, man.
That's true. Speaking of big universe, to wrap this up, I know we've got to talk about Marquee Moon.
Yeah.
We've got to talk about this one song. 11 minutes, the centerpiece of the record. I mean, the angular guitars, I love, like, this is a drive song. This is like a late night, walking around New York City, or any LA.
Got to go smoke a cigarette and go to the bathroom. Like, that's definitely when this gets put on.
I just, it's funny. Oh, dude, it's like, I wish I knew about the song when I was a strip club DJ. I would have put this on, gone to take a shit, come back, gone to get food. It's just, dude, it's 11 minutes. And then to know, like you said, that this was all done in one take, and it just feels, it's so perfect. It's such a perfect encapsulation of what this band is, the sound, the vibe, the melody. It's I don't know. Good.
The main guitar phrase is so compelling, and it propels the entire piece all the way through. And I'm sure you've heard the joke that goes something like, all right, maybe settle down with the solos, Toto's Africa. Like, you've had, I think there's like 3 or 4 big solos in it. It's like, all right, I get it. Y'all need to have your moment. I'm very proud of you. About 2/3 of the way through this song, there is that really nice, long, extended guitar solo that almost sounds like it's played on one string, where he goes all the way through that, and then there is an exhalation, like the song could really be over, right? We've gone through this wonderful, like, quiet. The notes are pure and they're clear, and they've got such incredible resonance, and it settles down, and then they slowly bring back that da 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 da. You're coming back to that, and it picks you right back up the same way, like Carry On Wayward Son. Like, you think you've gotten to the end of it, and it's like, actually no, here we go again. This is not an arena rock song. This is a club song, man.
Yeah.
It's a club song, and they do it in a club song, and you're just like, can you imagine being in CBGB, like just anywhere in that filthy place, and like that's just going right, and you know that it crescendos, that it soars to that part of the song, and when you see it live, of course they're gonna hold that beat, right? They're gonna hold that beat until the audience is just starving for that note to come back. And then it does. And it just carries you all the way through to the end. And it's like you're crowd surfing this song without ever leaving your seat.
It is such a like, you had mentioned earlier about watching live performances of this. Like, I've never seen them do this live. This is something that I would love, to go back in time at CBGBs and just seeing all the hip people that are probably there, just fucking partying to this song, and looking at the strange face of Tom. Like, he's got that like Richard Ashcroft look, which is like that slim face with the big eyes. And it's just, it's a cool song to go with a cool band. And like you talked about that solo, it's just, is it a solo? Like, it's just these like these angular noises and yet over that it all coming together with the rehash of it is something that the first time I heard it, immediately I saved it and was like, oh, this is good. And not knowing anything about the band, I'll be honest, it's probably the most popular song on, by television on this record. It's obviously the record's named after it. It's still not my favorite song on the record. That's what's so great about it. It's so good. And yet there are so much other good shit on this record. It's really, really impressive to come out with your first album and it to be, it to be this good and to make something this important. It's incredible. And like, kudos to fucking the drums by Billy Ficca and Richard Lloyd, Fred Smith. It's just a really, really it's a very mature record for guys that are so fucking young when they make this. It's really impressive, dude.
You can really tell that they spent time figuring out what they wanted it to sound like. Can you imagine what kind of courage it takes to tell fucking Brian Eno no in 1976?
I could imagine.
Are you kidding me? Every one of these guys has been influenced by Bowie and Iggy going to Berlin. Every single one of these guys has been influenced by the New York Dolls, and the MC5, and like these bands that are just so specific. And musically, sonically, this is not a complicated song
at all.
Like, it doesn't have a ton of changes. It has minimal production. I remember reading Tom Verlaine talking about that if they had gone with Eno, it just wouldn't have been sharp enough. He would have sanded all the edges off. And I guess it's meaningful that this album was effectively recorded live and that they didn't multi-track it, right? They were all in the room. Everything is mic'd, but they're recording it together and recording it live. And that's just like the trust that they have in each other and the belief that they have in themselves. That is, and to know that you're gonna put an album out with this song that is probably not going to get a lot of radio play. You're definitely not getting drive time with this at all. But there are other songs, there are other songs on the album that I also absolutely love. For like, completely different reasons. I love Prove It. And hang on just a second. Friction. I always
Yes.
forget the name. Friction is so good. And I keep returning to this. In 2025, we can take for granted so many musical choices that they made with this record. In 1976, no one is doing this.
Nope.
Nobody comes out and hits like Friction could easily be a single if it's like a minute less,
Mm-hmm.
And they don't compromise, and they make it exactly what it is. And like, look, man, to everybody who loves Joy Division and Bauhaus and Love and Rockets and Susie and the Banshees and Dolly's Car and like, thank you, Tom Verlaine. Thank you, Richard Hell. Like, thank you guys. Like, thank you for doing this. Like, these guys got together for like 2 or 3 days in 1976, and here we are over 50 years later, looking back at what they did then, and holy shit, the amount of stuff that's just piled up on top of that. It is an upside down pyramid, right? No. And it's just remarkable.
It really is. And I keep, the more I'm as you're saying that and I'm listening, I'm reading over just more stuff about like big ups to Elektra for not fiddling with them and giving them the budget to really just go in there and just like make the record that they want. Because you said something earlier about how every studio exec's got to put their little doodads in, and that fucks up everything. And for them to be able to say, listen, if we're gonna record it this way, we need to be tight, and for them to rehearse and know each other so well. Which, for the last question I wanted to ask you, was there, and out of all the things that you've done, all the movies, the writings, everything, the podcasting, everything you've done, what has been your Marquee Moon moment? Meaning you just nailed it on the first thing. You were like, holy shit, like, and any of the, because you've done so much cool shit. It was like maybe a long monologue, whatever. What's your Marquee Moon moment?
That's a really good question. That is an exceptionally loaded question for me.
I know
I'm gonna have to talk to it and figure
I know, especially at an hour 40 into the podcast. But dude, I mean, I just, as I'm saying it, I'm like, dude, it's like, it's such, we've all had
so
it.
Like, just speaking as like a technical accomplishment.
Yeah.
This isn't anything special, but technically it's impressive. When we were working on Star Trek, we would do these walk and talk scenes in the corridors of the Enterprise. And those corridors were built on stage 9 at Paramount. And there was a long corridor that was sort of a half moon, and it had a couple of spurs that went off it. One spur went down to the transporter room, and another one was would be redressed to be where engineering was, where the big engineering kind of pool table was. And the floor of that stage was creaky. And when they would put the dolly down, the dolly would make a lot of noise. So we'd do these walk and talks, and we would inevitably have to go back to do ADR recording and re-record our lines so that they would be clean. One of my great technical achievements is that I am in a scene with Frakes in like the second or third season, and it's a pretty long scene. It's probably 2 pages, and we had to loop the entire scene. And you never want to do that because it sucks recreating the performance, and you're working in isolation of the other actor and all that. But I was like, I can do this in one take. Just leave it open, and I'll just do my side of the scene. Just play it in my headset. And I killed it, and I did it in one take. I did the entire thing in one take. And we only did one take because I did it perfectly in one take. And I I wore that merit badge for the rest of the production of the series. And
I love it.
Like, so because Frakes and I had this fun little competition of who can do more lines all at one time, and I was like, I did the whole scene. I think that I'm gold medalist forever. Technically, that's pretty impressive.
That's very impressive. Especially I think while you're thinking about that, I want to say it is impressive, but also it's Star Trek impressive, which is even harder because you're putting in words that are above and beyond what are in human. It's all scientific shit. So you've got to know about different races and this. I mean, who knows?
We called it technobabble.
Yeah, of course.
Early drafts of scripts would say line, and then in brackets it would say in capital letters TECH, tech.
Yeah,
and they would go out to grad students at Caltech and ask them to write science-sounding things that we could use. I think that in my career, I'm really proud of my memoir. I'm really proud of Still Just a Geek for a couple of reasons. I wrote Just a Geek in the early 2000s because I felt pressured to turn my blog into a book. Everyone was telling me that I had to do that, and I wasn't ready to do it. I was too young and inexperienced. Mm-hmm. I had nothing. I had a lot of things to talk about, but I didn't have anything to say. And having the opportunity to revisit that and correct myself and hold myself accountable and talk about how I have changed, and to write all about what happened to my sister and me on The Curse, and to write about and speak honestly and fearlessly about my experience as a survivor of abuse, neglect, and exploitation, that I was able to do all of that at all was emotionally challenging and really, really hard at times. But getting that all the way through and finishing it and doing the audiobook and then making the New York Times bestseller list and the Audible bestseller list, and just meeting all these people who are just like, thank you for writing about your experiences with depression and addiction and exploitation and going no contact with your family. And like, I mean, there's also fun and silly things in my book, but like,
sure,
the things that people tend to highlight and identify. And just this weekend, a woman said to me, like, I just wanted to thank you. I am in the same club that you are in, and reading how you have gone through all of this stuff was validating and inspiring to me in my own journey. And as I said at the beginning of this, all we want as artists is for our work to matter and for it to affect somebody in a way that, like, that answers whatever that weird call is. I don't think artists choose art. I think art chooses artists.
Of course.
And, like, we have to do it, So like there is that compulsion to create art. And when someone else like receives the results of that compulsion and it matters to them, to me, it closes a circle and it returns to me something that I need to put into the furnace to do it the next time. So I don't know that I have like a singular accomplishment that is as meaningful. That's certainly nothing that has the legacy. Although I think you could make the case. I would probably argue against it before I ultimately accepted it, that as part of Star Trek, I am 1/9 of the original cast of Star Trek: The Next Generation. But I am now an elder in the Star Trek world.
Yeah.
And I represent legacy Star Trek. And there have been, I think, 5 series after us, plus all of Star Trek's cultural achievements and influences. I get to say I'm part of that. That's pretty great.
That's great.
I get to meet people who are incredible scientists, doctors, engineers. They've done amazing things with their lives. And they tell me that they chose their field because my character, Wesley Crusher, inspired them. And that is such an incredible gift, Throughout my recovery, throughout my efforts to heal my trauma, one of the things I always do is make space for my younger self to enjoy and feel proud of what he is doing, what that work was, because it really does matter to people. And I had no way of knowing at the time that it was going to have a life this many years later. I don't know that I am proud of it as much as I am just so intensely grateful for it.
I mean, you should be. Dude, it's like you've been through, the stuff that we've talked about today, and the stuff that I didn't know about, and then to find out, the stuff that I did know about, and it's like for you to be at this place in your life and just genuinely be happy and to be able to help people and to look back at your career, just be proud of the shit you've done, and even what you just said there, it's like it's just perfect, and and most people don't get that. And they don't get that kind of like awakening where it's just like, nah, dude, it's like I've dude, there's people that have done far more than both of us that are unhappy because they can't just see that the stuff that they've done or they only see the stuff they didn't get. They don't see the stuff that they have. And that's like really,
for the longest time in my life, that's all I saw. I could only see the things that hurt. I could only see the things where I felt that I fell short. I could only see all of the places where like I didn't feel loved.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like in all of those times, it was never me. It was never because of something I did or didn't do. It was really bad luck. And I'm so grateful that through a combination of sobriety and therapy, and just my wife and I have made a really wonderful family. We're close. We love each other. We are the family that I always wanted to have, that I always wanted to be part of. That all of that has created space for me to enjoy and feel really happy about, and occasionally feel proud of, but mostly just feel gratitude and look back at times where I just feel like, man, little kid, I wish you knew how cool you are.
Yeah.
I wish you knew how much cool shit you have to bring to the world. When you're ready, I'm going to be here to help you do it.
Yeah, man. And to bring us back to television is like, I'm like wondering because I'm looking at also like the stats of what this band did. They didn't sell a lot of records. Yes, they're on all these like best of lists and Rolling Stone saying 500 greatest albums, this and Marquee Moon. But it's like, was this band, I don't know. I don't know if I can find it anywhere, but was this band? I mean, obviously when you start a band, it's like, yeah, you want to be rich and successful. I mean, I don't know what it's like in 77 in New York. I mean, I don't know if they're like, they're kind of like the too cool for school guys that are like, nah, man, we just want to make our art and do our art and just be cool and read our books and smoke our cigarettes and drink at these bars in the Lower East Side. But I think there is an ego thing that we all have. And I wonder if if Tom and the rest of the band can look back at their career as television, because yes, they're talked about. This album is talked about as one of, obviously it's low on the list. We talked about all the influences, but it's like I wonder if they were happy, if they were like, because I know he went on to do stuff with like, yeah, so do I. I mean, he did solo things. Yeah. I know he played with with Patti Smith. He worked on Horses with her, but it's just like you just wonder. It's like, were they trying to be someone as big as the Stones? Or are they trying to be, because it's like they're not the Ramones, where it's like the Ramones, they made their money, and maybe I don't know how it's the same shit with like hip hop now, where it's like the guys in the 80s barely made any money, but now they're making all the money. And I think it's still kind of that way with some of the rock musicians. It's like they get their due, but it's like this band's not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They didn't sell a shitload of records. I mean, even we talked about the Velvet Underground. It's like the Velvet Underground, I don't think Lou Reed made most of his money through Velvet Underground. I think he made it all from doing his solo shit and working with Bowie. So I don't know. I mean, I hope before he died, I don't know who he is. I don't know enough about him, but I really hope before he died, only a couple years ago, that he was like, knows how special this record is for so many people,
Yeah. You mentioned Lovecraft so much earlier. He did not make a ripple in his lifetime. The significance of his work did not land until after his death. Frida Kahlo did not have her work reach critical mass because she specifically did not want it to be commercialized. I get mad when I see her work on like handbags and shit. I'm like, fuck you for doing that, you know? But she like specifically didn't want it to be that. And that is a great question. I actually have a thought that is kind of relevant to that kind of happened in my life. So I said art chooses the artist. Art was always going to choose me. I don't know what art was going to choose me, right? Like probably music, definitely a lot of writing, you know, has been part of it. But we get, you know, we make our art, and if we're lucky, it also gives us a comfortable lifestyle that allows us to keep making more art. The only time that I ever cared about making about anything at all was I want to make good art. I want to tell a good story. I want to do a memorable performance that nobody else can do. I want to do stuff that's respectable. That is, you know, I wanted to do prestige work. And the people who were in charge of my career at the time just wanted money and fame. The thing about money and fame is that it lasts for a half a second. It's cotton candy. And the thing about art is that it endures. And that not all art brings money and fame, but all art brings artistic satisfaction. And if you make enough of it, eventually something maybe does bring in that other stuff. But is the difference between being like the B-52s who make their wonderful, weird art and they're like, this is what we're making and everybody loves it, and being like, Right Fred Said. Or Right Said Fred.
Right Said Fred. Yeah.
Where you're like, I'm going to do this one dance song. It's one like single that was decanted in a lab that went through a bunch of like things to make this thing. Or like, I'm going to be Ace of Base and I'm going to make this pop song that everybody loves. You can be Taylor Swift and make pop music that's deeply meaningful and important and also incredibly successful. You can do pop music that's just bubblegum. It doesn't matter. I think that it's kind of up to the creator to decide what's important to them. You know, if all they want is a bunch of money at one time, okay, cool. That's never what I wanted. I wanted to do something that mattered, that lasted, that was bigger than me. And I'm really, really lucky that I've been in a few things that absolutely fit that bill.
Sure. Oh, dude. I mean, I've said it a million times. It's like you not only just one, but you've done multiple, and you've had different acts, and even this, what I want to call it a final act whatsoever. But as you're getting into your 50s, I mean, this is like we said, this is where you get to look back and be proud and be happy and raise your family and actually enjoy your life. And I listen, you know, the guy lived, you know, the band looked like it lived, you know, a long life. I mean, he died, you know, a couple years ago at 73. You know, it happened with when we were doing the Big Star records, which is, you know, Alex Chilton, you know, and the rest of the band. You know, it's got to feel good to make something that, you know, is great and critics love. And, you know, money, I don't think they were broke at all, Big Star, but it's like, you know, they all went on and had great lives. And I definitely, the way that, you know, fucking the Replacements and so many of, and REM are so influenced by a band like Big Star, you know, it's something that whether, you know, you're you know, the Beatles and have the money of them, a very respected band and able to live a comfortable life. You know, like you said, it's just as long as you're proud of the art, I think that's all that really does make a difference. I mean, there's so many, like, you know, great directors, there's so many great writers and you know, of whether it's, you know, a fiction and just so much stuff that it's like, you know, you've seen it where they can make something great, yet they can't enjoy any of it. It really is, man. It's like, dude, I would love to have something in my life as valuable as Marquee Moon. And I mean, for us to be talking about it today and just to know the people that have been influenced by it, it's incredible. And it's just something that, like, you know, you get one shot at life, and to be able to make something that you're like, I have to make this, and oh, people seem to dig it. Oh, critics seem to dig it. Oh, that's great. I mean, it's a hard thing to do, man. And you know, I'm just so glad that I got this chance to finally dig into this record and now have it on the rotation, because it's something that I've kept seeing throughout the years, and it's just you know, it is culturally and musically significant, to say the least.
My wife says, you know, we only get one life, and it's unimaginably brief.
Very.
We share the planet with a certain group of people for a particular amount of time. How lucky are we to have been on the planet as the time at the same time as this art?
Oh my God. Oh, dude, there's like, how lucky are we that the Simpsons? How lucky are we that just all the shit that you dig? Yeah.
When I tell people I was at the Battle of Los Angeles, like I was at the Rage concert that inspired that album. I was at Lollapalooza in 91, 92, 93, 94. Like I talk about these things that I got to experience that for a 20-year-old today is the equivalent of me hearing someone say, yeah, I was at Monterey Pop. Yeah, I was at Woodstock or whatever, you know, or there's that great documentary like about that legendary gig that like, you know, everybody says they were at, that inspired them to, like, you know, I think it was at like the Factory, that like everybody went to this thing, you know, and like out of that show comes like basically every post-punk band in you know, in England or whatever. Like, to have been in those moments, I am not a blind person. I see the horrors every day in the world. And amongst the horrors, it's also really nice that there's stuff like this to distract from it, and to remind us that good art is worth making, good art is worth defending and protecting. I think that we have to, as a society, as a civilization, support and protect our artists, because the work that the artists do is just as important as the work the doctors and the scientists and the mathematicians do.
Completely. All right, let's get you out of here. Dude, please come back. This has been awesome, Will.
I would love to. Please bring me back for another record. I'd love to do this again.
Oh, we've got how many more do we have, Jared? This was number 130. So we have 130 more episodes, and we're getting
2.5 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Is it not? Is it 2.5?
That's great.
May 31st, 2028. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Sorry. So we ask everybody these questions. Favorite song on this record?
Probably Friction.
Okay. We should have talked about that more. God, we got so caught up with so much other stuff. Just let everybody know, listen to the record. If you know,
the thing about Friction is that it starts with that intense cascading guitar sound that just makes me feel like I'm Indiana Jones running away from the boulder. I love the way it propels me into that, right? This is actually one of the rare albums where it is the music that speaks to me more so than the lyrics.
Sure. Well, this is definitely, from what I'm reading, the critics often point to this as the opening, as the signature television sound. Like, this is kind of where you get what television is, and they developed this. Much of the guitar vocabulary heard here during long rehearsals at the CBGB residencies. I mean, that place. The fact that it's a fucking clothing store now is blasphemy. Yeah, it does. It does. So but there is, you know, look, at least it's Barbados and not like, you know, right. It's like he's at least kind of in the, yeah. It's not like an Ann Taylor, you know what I mean? But yes, I agree with you. I'd say Friction. I mean, because Marquee Moon obviously is the most important. I loved Torn Curtain as well. Prove It is great. But I would put Friction probably in my top three. But I think if I'm going to pick one, I think I'm going to go Prove It. All right. Is this a no skip record?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I feel like every song kind of blends into the next in a way. It's not like a, you know, I'm trying to think of, it's not like a Mr. Show episode where everything kind of blends in, but it's definitely, I love the sequencing of this. I love the way they start. I love the way they end. It doesn't have a slow period. What were you about to say before I cut you off? Sorry.
My friend John Bowie has a podcast called The Record Junkies that I think you dig. The idea is, hey, come in and we love music. Bring an album that really matters to you. Don't tell us what it is. And then tell us why it matters to you. We'll listen to a little bit of it, right? Mm-hmm. I've been listening to this podcast for a while, and I noticed I have been listening to playlists and shuffled algorithmic recommendations and playlists that I built myself, like mixtapes, but I haven't been listening to albums. I have not been putting on an album, listening to it start to finish. So starting about 3 months ago, I started doing that again, listening to entire albums. And it is rare that there is an album that is no skip for me. There's always something somewhere, especially in this era when there's so much experimental stuff. You know, I'm like, okay, that doesn't work. You know, it's like, Suicide's album that has Ghostwriter on it. You know, like for the longest time, I would only hear that song and I was like, fuck, this song is so dark and incredible. And I listened to that entire record and I'd never done that. Listen to it all the way through and I'm just like, holy shit. So this is definitely a no skip record for me. I encourage people, if you have found yourself, as I did without meaning to, ending up kind of like you're effectively only listening to the radio, even if it's like algorithmically sorted songs or whatever, find some records and actually listen, even if they're streaming, listen to the album start to finish. Like, take the time to do that.
That's how this came, dude. You're talking about how I started doing this podcast. I was like, everybody gets set in their ways. We listen to the same shit over and over, you know, and we're trying to find new shit that's coming out, but you've got so much great music, you know, like, dude, I mean, I'm not just saying eventually I think television would have made its way in there, but I don't know. Like I saw Big Star for years, never listened to him. REM, I knew a couple of their records from doing this podcast. I'm like, they're one of the best bands that's ever existed. Yeah. And I mean, it's just, you find it by, it's not the hits on the radio that are the best songs. It's like the full album is what they intended. Like it's like Marquee Moon is a great song, right? But without See No Evil, Venus, Friction before it, does it hit the same? I think it hits stronger after hearing those first 3 songs and then getting into that. And that's what's great, right?
As much as I love Big Mouth Strikes Again off The Queen Is Dead by the Smiths, I don't like hearing it on the radio. It needs to come after Vicar in a Tutu and before Some Girls Are Bigger Than Others. Otherwise, it's weird. Every now and then, one of my playlists will be like, you like Pink Floyd. Here's only Brain Damage from Dark Side of the Moon. Like,
I know.
What are you doing?
I know. It's like you've got to hear.
That's like playing one of the snippets from the Abbey Road medley on the Golden Slumbers medley. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
No, you're wrong.
Just play the whole second half, please.
Do it right.
Please just play the whole second half of that record. That's all you got to do. Play side 2. Yeah. We're good. And I agree with you, especially on the Pink Floyd, because that run is just, I mean, that's like one of my favorite runs in like music history of getting from that to Eclipse is just it's such a perfect way. All right. Yeah. Can you fuck to this record? Can you fuck to Marquee Moon?
Yeah. Sure.
Really?
Listen, you can fuck to any record if you believe in yourself.
You can, but I don't know if this is structurally. I mean, listen, I bet you this came out and many hip New Yorkers, you know, like the hipsters of the world, we're going to call it, definitely probably put this on. I don't know if it would be a go-to record for me to fuck to. Maybe. I mean, Marquee Moon, the song it's like, you know, it's like I keep talking about the jagged guitars, the way he sings, the breakdowns, but it isn't like obtuse where it's like you can't, you know, I think it is a fuckable song. I don't know if the entire record is, though. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you know, I'll just have to give it a try and get back to you. I'll just ask my wife if she's on board. Honey, I got to do this. It's for work.
Honey, get the Sonos ready.
Listen, I mean, it's no maggot brain, right? And it's not Isaac Hayes, right? I mean, it's not even Hall and Oates. But there's something to it, right? I mean, like, look, I think you can fuck to Nirvana, you know? I mean, you just gotta your head's just gotta be in the right place.
No, I know. I completely agree. I think you can. I don't know if this is, like I said, this is something I would put on, but I definitely think it
Sure.
is
Yeah.
fuckable. And
Yeah.
what would be your elevator pitch? Like, how do you sum up? How do you get someone that's never listened to television Marquee Moon to get them to listen to it? How would you say it?
I'm going to play the opening notes of this record, and you're going to know by the 12th bar if you want to listen to it or not. I think it is a rare album that tells you immediately from the very beginning, this is what I am, this is what I am going to deliver to you. Are you into it or not? Like, it just comes up and it grabs you. And I don't think that it requires a lot of selling, right? Here, listen, give me 30 seconds of your time, and you tell me at the end of 30 seconds, you either push stop or you keep going, and just keep going until you want to stop. And I bet you by the time you're halfway through the second song, you're probably on board for the rest of this record.
I think
if I got any pushback or resistance, maybe, hey, you love post-punk?
yeah.
You love right? I mean, you love goth. You love grunge. I can show you how all of these bands that you love are inspired and influenced and even contained within this record. That probably works for, it doesn't work on all the music nerds. You have to be a particular kind of music nerd for that to work. But like, I would respond to that. I'm like, yeah, man, let's go.
I think
That's how I started
love
listening to Big Star, because I was just like, oh wow, Big Star influenced all these bands I like. Cool, I'll go check them out. I'd heard the Replacement song,
Sure.
I didn't know who Alex Chilton was.
I love that. I love that you said that too. It's because, there's so much music that you just have no idea. Like, you sometimes, like you mentioned Suicide, and you're like, oh yeah, I can hear the Nine Inch Nails, from Suicide. And
Yeah,
I
of
love
course.
Nine Inch Nails. So I'm so glad. And maybe I don't love Suicide as much as I love Nine Inch Nails, but I think all the music that this went on to influence, it's like, not only can I love that, I can look back at this and still like think, oh man, this is like just as current as 99% of that shit. I think this is a record that is so ahead of its time, and just so musically important for most. I'd say at least 70 to 80% of the bands that I love, and I think that's really fucking cool, man. And I'm really glad this record finally came up, because I kept seeing it and I'm just like, it's probably going to be all long jams and this, that. And then you're like, oh no, it's like you got one long song and then all the rest are just perfect. And I don't even want to call it post-punk. It's like, it's pre-punk.
It's pre-punk.
It's pre-punk.
It's very much pre-punk. Like, this,
yeah.
So like, my punk experience is, I'm from LA, man. So it's my hardcore experience is Black Flag and Circle Jerks, and DI, and right. And then my other punk is X and the Minutemen, and like that's all the stuff that I was crazy about listening to, and just that I went, in this weird kind of backwards way through all of that. It came to me sort of out of order to now in my 50s hear what very clearly started all of it. It cannot be overstated. And I hope that this isn't me like being, Lenny and Mice and Men petting the rabbit to death. No one had done anything like this. This was new. This was so risky. This was so bold. This is such a clear, inspired, unambiguous artistic vision that these people put together and believed in. And, like I have always said, I stole this from Joel Hodgson from Mystery Science Theater. When they write jokes, they don't say who's going to get this. They say, no, the right people will get this. And really great art is the same, and the same thing with music.
Totally.
They knew that the right people were going to get this. And there was an A&R guy or woman who was like, you guys, this band, I'm telling you, right? It's like I just watched a documentary about Max's Kansas City, and the booker from Max's talks about how he'd go down to CB's to watch bands audition, and he's sitting there next to Hilly one day, and there's this duo on the stage, and the guy that's booking for Max's is just crazy about this. Like, they're great, but they're not in tune. They're kind of, they're a mess, But this guy from Max's is like, oh my fucking God, with a little bit of work. Hilly doesn't see it, doesn't hear it at all. The guy's like, I'm going to bring you to Max's, but I want you to sit down with one of these guys who just tune your instruments. That band is the Cramps.
Oh, no way.
So there's someone who goes, I think that I'm going to take a chance on this. And that person, like, listen, we give lots of credit to the artists because they deserve it. We give scorn to the idiots who stand in the way and say no, right? I don't know that we often say, wow, I don't know who said yes to this. I don't know who was the one who was like, yeah, let's give him some money to record this record. But whoever that was, thank you.
Yeah, it's like you watch somebody like what's the guy's name who does I Think You Should Leave, Tim Robinson. You're like,
yeah,
you wouldn't look at him and be like, oh, this guy is a comedic genius and everybody's gonna fucking not just identify, but like just be able to vibe with his comedy. And it's just to see, like, because it's so out there, but that's the thing, is like the people that find it are the people that find it.
It's a great example of the right people will get this. Most of it doesn't work for me. I feel like it just I get the joke and then it keeps going long after I want to move on to the next joke. But when it works and when it hits, it's genius.
Yeah.
And that is how we create new art forms. That is how we help disciplines, comedy, music, drama, how we help it all evolve and grow.
Yeah.
And it's, there are albums where you're like, that's an influential album, but it's not necessarily that great to listen to. This is a fucking great album that happens to also be incredibly influential.
It is, dude. It is. And I feel like, there's been moments in this podcast where it's like, like I said, where it's like, I found the record and I understand it. And I was like, right from the first listen of this, and it was just like, oh man, like this just got me. And this was perfect, dude. What a perfect way to fucking celebrate this record, dude. Thank you so much for coming on. Please,
it's such a pleasure.
Please promote away. I mean, tell us everything. We'll also do it at the beginning and the end of the podcast as well, but please promote away.
Anyone who's interested in seeing our Stand By Me screenings and all of that, go to standbymelive.com. That's where all of the dates and ticket links are located. If you would like to know what's going on with me in my life, my blog has been on the internet since the year 2000, and it lives at wilwheaton.net. I would love it if you would listen to my podcast called It's Story Time with Wil Wheaton. New episodes drop every Wednesday, wherever you get your podcasts. And it is a weekly audiobook podcast. I take short fiction from writers who are beloved in the genre world, who might be just breaking out and finding their audience. And one of my dreams is that I'm going to help you find your next favorite author who you don't even know exists right now, and just help elevate people's careers so that they can make more great art. Finally, I'm on Instagram as It's Wil Wheaton, and Blue Sky, I'm wilwheaton.net. That's a lot of things to remember.
No, we'll do it at the beginning too. Don't worry, dude. We'll give you a heavy promo at the beginning too.
But yeah, that's if you're only to remember one thing, wilwheaton.net is the central hub for everything that exists in my life.